All right, so there's a context here. We have been drawn in, I believe, into a proxy war. Meaning we should not have been part of this. We shouldn't have seen any of this.
Oh, yeah.
This conflict should have never happened. It should all have been handled privately. Hi, my name's Jerry Doris. This is Tanner Cartwright. This is Elisha Cartwright. And this is Snake on the Table.
All right, Elisha, what's our snake?
What are we talking about, buddy?
Snake on the table.
You got it. That's it. So today we want to talk about the Antioch Statement and some of the controversies that are surrounding that. We weren't even going to do one, but mainly I've got so many people blowing my phone up. Like, what are we...
And not just anybody, people from our own church.
Oh, yeah. People.
I think people need to realize that one of the primary objectives of Snake on the Table is to kind of help our people.
Sure.
And for them to understand what's going on in the world. That's our primary target. Obviously, there's things that we talk about that are outside of this, but this affects us. It affects local relationships.
Yep.
It affects friendships. So it's something that we need to talk about.
Well, and we're friends with some of the guys that put out the statement.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
I love these guys.
Tons of guys that signed it, and so even me and Toby Sumter have been going back and forth on Twitter today. I love Toby.
Yeah,
I love him to death.
Yeah.
Good brother. So anyway, but we've got people asking that don't know about the context of the controversy, haven't been following it, all of that kind of thing. So we thought we'd just go ahead and put it out.
Yeah. So let's. I'd like to start maybe 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
For some context here. So people may not know this, but when here 3 or 4 years ago, we met in this room. We had a confab. I don't know what you'd call that. A council.
A collaboration.
Yeah. So several churches, and we even had people zoom in on that call as well to talk about kinism in the church, which touches on this issue that is here. And we did that because we recognized in our fellowship, people were talking about this. We had people that were in our church that people thought they believed certain things, and they assumed the worst. Man, it's such a bad thing that happens in the church these days.
Racism is just you throw that out there, kinism, and that's just,
Yeah, so kinism and racism, and what does that all mean? And so we came to some conclusions about that we're not kinist. We do, first off, we're not racist. These are self-determinations, but we were looking at the actual merits. So we're looking at Rushdoony quotes and different things, if you recall.
Yes.
And I think we came away from that with a pretty good consensus of where we should be as a church. And so we've been shepherding our membership through these issues of racism and those kind of things.
Yep.
And then even we've been talking about what's been called the post... what do you call
post-war consensus.
Yeah, post-war consensus. We've been talking about
PWC,
that.
yeah.
In fact, part of my reason for going to Washington, D.C. this last summer was to go to the Holocaust Museum. I'm not a Holocaust denier. Yeah, you're not a Holocaust denier.
I'm not a Holocaust denier,
Yeah, and then we did an episode on Snake on the Table about questioning the narrative.
Yep.
Where we even talked about...
With that in mind.
Yeah, and we're doing that for our people. Yep. We want our people to realize it's okay to question the narrative. It's okay to have some fun conspiracy theories, those kind of things, but we just don't want to go too far with these things. And so I think we have been shepherding our membership well.
Yep.
We shepherd from the pulpit. We shepherd from our teaching platform. So like you've been teaching just war theory.
Yes.
And tomorrow you're going to be teaching on colonialism.
Yep.
And whether that was good or bad and those kind of things. So anyways, I just want to give that history, that context.
We're all about questioning the narrative. I have no problem.
Yeah, and so some people have characterized it, well, that's all because of you're this way because of what happened at COVID. No. I've been this way for a very long time. We've got people characterizing, though, you read a book on the Crusades and now you're a crusader. No, that's not true either. We actually talked about that in our episode on
100%.
On the narrative.
I've had these kinds of questions about history since I was younger because I was homeschooled.
Right.
And so it wasn't a certain narrative shoved down our throat necessarily.
Right.
My granddad was a World War II buff. And if he knew some of the things that I thought about World War II, he'd get a little upset. But regardless, I think that we should question the narrative. And here's part of my concern with all of this controversy is that all of a sudden we're elevating, questioning historical narrative to as if it's a gospel issue.
Yeah.
And I think the Apostle Paul would have something to say about that. It's like, well, you can be a part of us as long as you as long as you believe in the Holocaust or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I may think that someone who denies the Nazis were murdering large amounts of Jews is an idiot because of the overwhelming amount of substantial evidence.
Right.
But I can't go to immediately start calling heresy over that.
Yeah.
And that's part of my big concern. I think we've got a problem with, and that was part of this statement. It's like you're saying that now a test of orthodoxy is making statements about when, the French Revolution and all this stuff. It's like, what are you guys talking about?
Well, even before that, in the introduction, the second paragraph, second sentence, it's talking about wolves, the shepherds. And there's only one. There's not one, but there's four people that they have in mind when they said that. And anyways, so
and most everybody knows who that is. I mean, but it's Wolf, it's Isker, and it's Joel Webbin.
Yeah,
I don't know who the other one would be, but
Elisha. I just need to point out because they may not be able to see that what your cup says is, ladies, mansplaining is short for man explaining.
Just so all the ladies pick up on that.
Yeah, we want them to understand what that terminology means. So that's kind of our context, and I firmly believe that none of this is necessary.
Oh yeah,
the statement's not necessary.
It's so frustrating.
The conflict that we've seen is not necessary. People are saying, "Well, this isn't about what you're saying. It's about guys." Well, first off, there's this growing fear that racism and Jew hatred is being allowed to fester into the church. And that there needs to be some sort of a statement against that. And the large piece of evidence that they have for feeling that way is this conflict that erupted and then has been seen by different people. So we're talking about James White, those guys. Yeah. They have seen that. And then there's the Anon Army that is okay with... Sometimes I'm trying to explain to people is that we speak in memes these days.
Yeah.
We speak through imagery. It's a new language that has appeared.
Well, I mean, Luther did it too.
But it's a new language, and people are uncomfortable sometimes with the associations that come with the language that we use, the imagery that we use.
Okay.
And I pointed this out. We got in trouble here a couple years ago, one of our elders, because he posted a Die Hard image.
Yeah.
And he's just saying, welcome to the party, because that's something we've all seen.
Yes.
It's in the narrative. So when we're using pictures of Nazis, or you're thinking about, I was having an argument with somebody yesterday about Franco in Spain, you know, and so if you use this image, then you're associated with everything evil that is ever associated.
Yesterday was Franco Friday.
Yeah, I should have posted something. And they don't realize that we speak in imagery now, and that it's becoming okay to have to.
It is okay
to deal out those images. Yeah. And not communicate all the bad things, but I'm just communicating that Franco, man, he loved his country and he went to war against what he thought was evil in his country. And
well, if you think Franco was worse than the commies, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Anyways, but I think that's just a backdrop, and I think there's a crowd that doesn't get that.
Oh yeah.
So we lost people in our church because somebody shared a Die Hard meme.
Well, and that was 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah. But that's still the same moment.
Because we were promoting this movie.
Die Hard has bad language in it.
Rated R.
How dare you do that? I'm not communicating that. I'm just communicating. Welcome to the party, pal.
Yes.
It's funny.
Exactly.
It's meant to laugh.
Yep.
All right. So there's a context here. We have been drawn in, I believe, into a proxy war. Meaning we should not have been part of this. We shouldn't have seen any of this.
Oh yeah.
This conflict should have never happened. It should all have been handled privately.
So I don't know how much context we need to give, but it all should have ended at the Zoom call. That should have been the end of it.
Well, even before that, it should have just a phone call months ago.
But if Tobias, rockin' what's his name, if he had a concern, a genuine, I think he did. I think he had a genuine concern.
Yeah, he's a pastor.
Take that to Joel. And him and Joel and this churchman deal with it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. And the Zoom call proves that it should have been the end of it because the thing is like, no, I don't hate Jews. I'm not saying that Hitler was a Christian prince.
Right.
I've repented of the things that I have said in the past that were sinful.
Yeah.
And Joel's like, see, I'm shepherding this guy. Now you guys back off.
Yeah.
And that's what will happen in that Zoom call.
But I'm just going back. So we're talking about Tobias here. I don't fault Tobias for having genuine concern for his parishioner.
No.
And he shared a
but
meme.
It should have ended
he
at the
shared a
Zoom
meme
call.
that was inappropriate.
Yeah.
And then he explained, I wasn't trying to communicate all the evil that you're talking about here. I was just communicating my disdain for the narrative.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
I've got no problem with him approaching Joel with that problem.
Yes.
He should have.
He should have, yeah.
He's like,
As a
this
pastor
guy used to
concerned,
be in my church.
he did this, yeah.
I feel a spiritual responsibility here. 100% on board.
Yeah, I am 100%.
The problem is that on July 22nd, Wilson mentions the meme in a blog. And then on
which means that Tobias has taken this meme
and shared it.
He's shared it.
Because the guy, the original maker of the meme, did not make it public. He shared it with a few select individuals.
Yeah.
Tobias, who he thought was a trusted person that he was trying to communicate some stuff with,
Yeah.
shares that with at least Doug and James.
Yeah.
At least those two. And so then on July 31st, James White goes nuts on his podcast about this meme, saying that the person should be put under church discipline. And if he won't be, the pastor needs to step down. And he said immediately, and he said, don't make me name names, because I will.
He knew.
That's a direct quote.
He knew who it was at the time because he threatened to name his name.
So then the accusation now is that Joel's the one that started making it public. No, these guys did. And then Tobias went on Iron Sharpens Iron on October 2nd.
No, you're wrong on that date.
September 13th.
Yeah, September 13th.
So September 13th, Tobias went on Iron Sharpens Iron. And then, on October 2nd, Joel's podcast, the accusations that were being made.
So we have months of leading up, at least 2 months of leading up to this before Joel Webb actually
Well, Joel waited almost a month before he responded to the accusations that were being made by Wilson and White, and then Tobias on Iron Sharpens Iron.
So what people don't realize is that Tobias named 4 names in that podcast with Chris Arzon, or however you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
He mentions 4 names: Brian Sauvé, Andrew Iskers, and Eric Kahn, as well as Webben.
He may have Wolf, I think he mentioned in that one.
It may have been earlier, but there's a certain spot, I think it's at the 1 hour 20 mark in that podcast, where he mentioned he is the one who outed this, what should be private, and what James White is saying, all this kind of stuff, that this people should step down, all this kind of stuff. He's the one who told everybody who that was.
Yep.
So
they're naming names.
Yeah.
Then Joel responds on his podcast saying, I'm not going to discipline my parishioner, or my churchman. I'm not going to do it. So just take a hike.
Let's stop here for a second, because the Ezra Institute just put out a statement saying that they didn't know about it until Joel's podcast on October. Brother, I really have trouble with that. First off, Tobias is part of the Ezra Institute, so the Ezra Institute did know about it, just from him knowing about it because of him being a fellow with them. I think maybe what they mean is this is before Joe Boot heard about it. I don't know. But tell me when the Zoom call happened. Is that in there?
It's not even on here.
Yeah, I think the Zoom call has happened in the middle of all that. I think it happened before the podcast.
The Iron Sharpens Iron and whatnot.
So
and that wasn't public.
No.
So people weren't connecting dots on that.
But in the Zoom call, that's when he talks about Joe Boot knowing and these people knowing.
And he talks about, he calls for excommunication over and over and over again in that Zoom call.
They're calling for church discipline.
It's clear. There's
White's
some British
calling for a pastor.
There's some British guy on the Zoom call losing his mind over it.
Yeah.
Just railing. And so then you say that, let's see. So then on October 3rd, the Eschatology Matters posted a tweet saying it's between James White and Tobias R. I'll just say Tobias R because I cannot get his last name. And so then on October 29th, the Eschatology Matter posts Tobias's video. And the next day on October 30th, they take it down. And then the next day, Eschatology Matters gives a full retraction, saying that there were lies in the video.
Yeah.
Because they were given the Zoom call that Tobias didn't know was recorded.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, that's the rundown.
So that's happening while I think that these guys, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, that they were going to plan on putting some sort of a statement out to handle what they're concerned about happening in the Reformed Church in terms of kinism, racism.
You're saying you think they were already planning this statement?
Let's give them the benefit
Let's
of the doubt.
Let's say they were, yeah.
That's what they were doing. But this is all happening at the same time as that. Clearly, the epicenter of where this is meant is with these four pastors that they're talking about.
Yep.
So when we get into the statement and it talks about wolves, it's talking about those men. So it's clearly all connected there. Then you have Tobias as being one of the contributors for this document. And that's kind of where I think that's where we're at. So it looks pretty suspicious. It's all been put into...
So Tobias makes all the claims, then the Zoom call is shared, proves he's lying, the video's taken down, he has not repented, nothing. No retractions from anybody other than Eschatology Matters. Yeah. They're the only ones that had any kind of integrity in this whole thing.
Yeah.
And they apologized and said they were wrong and this, that, and the other. And then, after all of that and no apologies, then they put out this statement.
Right.
And it's like, it's obvious who they're talking about.
Yes.
Even if they want to say, well, these are separate issues.
I've got brothers in Christ who are claiming it's not about this. It's not about but it's so clearly connected. They may have had in their mind that we're going to put out a statement about this and try to unify the church against neo-Nazism and all this kind of stuff. And I commend that. I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Sure.
But the timing is bad. To me, somebody could use the analogy. They keep stepping on rakes here.
Yeah.
There's literally smack.
Jeff Wright was.
Oh my goodness! That's what's happening, and it doesn't look good. Well,
it's bad. It's either intentionally. Either there was an intentional attempt here to take down Joel Webbon, and maybe the Ogden guys.
That's what it looks like.
It's sure what it looks like, or they're just blundering around in the dark on this. Like, I just do not understand. Like, the amount of sloppiness is just inconceivable. Yeah. You would have thought men like James White, Jeff Durbin, Joe Boot, Doug Wilson, you would have thought these guys, this wouldn't have been the way they did this.
Yeah.
It's just incredibly sloppy.
My heart just wants to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're concerned about this rising, as they see it, rising neo-Nazism and that kind of stuff in the Reformed world. Now, I disagree. I don't think that's happening because people are questioning it. I think they're just questioning the narrative. It doesn't mean that they're adopting neo-Nazism.
Yeah.
I don't buy that. But so that everybody's clear, let's put out a statement that everybody can agree so that we repudiate the hatred of ethnic Jews.
Yep.
Because I don't think anybody, even on the Zoom call, they don't hate ethnic Jews. They hate Talmudic Judaism, and I think we should all agree that that's worthy of hatred, an enemy, as we talked about.
I think it's kind of like the whole BLM thing. It's like, say Black Lives Matter. Yeah. Say it. Say Black Lives Matter. And it's like, no, all lives matter, because I don't want to become part of that.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. I feel like I'm being forced to say BLM, when in my mind I'm like, well, of course Black Lives Matter. Yeah. Of course we shouldn't hate Jews.
Yeah.
But you're trying to twist people's arm to say it. Say Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
That's what this all thing reminds me of. I don't know anybody who hates Jews because they're Jews.
Yeah.
Even the Stone Choir guys don't.
No.
And they're insane.
No.
They are complete and utter idiots.
Yeah.
But even they don't hate people just because they're Jewish.
Yeah.
So I just don't even understand who they're talking about.
There have been things that I've seen Corey Muller say and different things. I've not listened to one word. I think you may have listened to some podcasts that they have done.
I did, because I want to know who they were.
I haven't listened to anything. I would not. I don't recommend them. I'm not going to listen to them. I could care less about them. To me, it's not even about them. People may listen to them or whatever, but when we deal on the points and the narratives, I think we just need to recognize that as Christians, we do love ethnic Jews. We love them enough to go share the gospel with them, go to Israel and preach the gospel. We care about them.
Well, but yeah, so I don't have to put out a statement.
No, but I don't fault somebody from wanting to do it.
Well, sure, but I don't have to put out a statement that, well, if somebody, I deny, or I just, what's the word? If somebody's out there that hates ethnic Russians, I got to take a stand against that. No, if I encounter someone like that, I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
But I'm not encountering anti-Semitism, whatever the heck that means.
This idea of people hating the Jews and Christians hating the Jews has been with us since Christ.
Yeah.
Since he walked the earth. We haven't needed a statement for all this time. We just haven't needed, and it's been higher. This type of rhetoric and exercise has been higher in the past than it is today. We haven't needed a statement.
So that we're clear, Jews and Christians are enemies.
Yes.
We're enemies. They are our enemies. They're the enemies of Christ.
Yeah.
And so there's a sense in which we hate God's enemies. We talked about this on the previous podcast about hatred.
Yeah.
How do we hate and love?
Yeah.
But if I encounter a Jew, there's going to be nothing but a desire for him to receive the gospel.
Absolutely.
And I think
even if he spits in my face and hates me.
I think that is the case for 99.9% of these dark MAGA, blue-eyed anons.
Red background, blue eyes. Guys, it's called D-MAGA.
D-MAGA. We're so cool. 99.9% of these guys, it's the same thing. If they encounter an ethnic Jew, you even saw this with the Stone Choir guys and all the back behind the screen screenshots that came out. They're fine with guys that are ethnically Jewish, and we're kind of like talking to them. They're friends with them. It's just no problem.
Yeah.
So my point is that even as fringe and crazy as they are, they're not where these guys are
accusing them of.
They're accusing that there's this huge group and movement. I think it's insane.
So I want to show something.
That's crazy.
So Sandlin, he took a screenshot of you reposted something that I had put out.
What's up, Doc?
Yeah, you posted something that I had done, and then somebody, a brother from a Jewish background, he's
ethnically Jewish on both sides.
Yeah. He makes a comment about the Jews and their. How they're uniquely evil or something to that effect. And then Sandlin screenshots goes, "This is the reason that we wrote this statement."
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, that's the reason that you wrote that statement? Because that's actually true in terms of their proximity to Christ, their knowledge that they would have had, and then their own statements. Even Islam has some level of respect for Christ. They don't get him right, and it's evil. And I say it. But when you look at Judaism, and they're thinking that they're talking about how he is boiling in excrement in hell. That's different.
There's a difference.
That's different. That's qualitatively more evil. My favorite word. Qualitatively more evil.
More worser.
More worser.
Yeah.
Anyways, but if that's the reason you wrote it. So what I'm seeing, these guys are like the modern, so back in the day, the charismatics that saw, the demon of the creaky door, they're casting out the demon.
Yeah.
There's that creaky door, we're going to cast that demon out. That's what they've become. They're seeing racism in normal speech.
In everything.
So if we talk about the Jews and we don't, I guess, venerate them in some way, we are being racist or we hate Jews. That's absurd.
It is absurd. Yeah.
That is not giving the benefit of the doubt or even asking for clarification.
Yeah.
So you think about Samuel Holden in the video that he put out. Did anybody ask him for clarification? I noticed that one of my friends on Facebook, I think Nathan Anderson, he's friends with Samuel Holden. He shows the screenshots which says message him next to him. He could have messaged him to say, hey, tell me what you meant by putting those in there. What was your thought process behind that? I just want to hear kind of why you thought that was okay.
Well, he's attacking Sam as if Sam's a Nazi.
Yeah, as though
You're friends with him on Facebook, bro.
Yeah.
Like you're friends with Nazis on Facebook? Is that what you're saying?
Sam would sign Joseph Spurgeon's statement.
I believe he would.
I think he would.
Yeah, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, but Sam's a good brother. I mean, he is, and just because
I think I've spoken to him on the phone once in a group call, but I've not.
Yeah, I've talked to him quite a bit, and I like him and Ethan. They're wild. Really? I like them.
We can edit this out if you need to.
If I need to
cut that out.
I'm not worried about it.
Okay. So I don't know what else to say about this. I mean, I don't want to get in the minutia of the statement.
Yeah. No, you're free to go read the statement. It's fine. But what you're going to find is a convoluted word salad that's mainly just completely confusing. And they're making things that should not be points of orthodoxy.
Yeah.
That's really...
They're elevating things.
They're elevating things.
So let's go to the confusing part of it. I have said that, you've said that, and then the pushback is, no, it's not confusing. I'm like, no, brother, I'm telling you, I don't understand it.
We're just dumb.
Yeah, well, that must be a country, a Kentucky pastor.
Hillbillies.
Yes, you are absolutely right. And in my mind, it's too thick. I read it to my wife, read portions to my wife, and I said, and she goes, what does that mean? I'm like, if you ever have to ask the question, what does that mean when you hear what's supposed to be a firm statement, it's not a clear statement. Now,
the conflagration, you could say war, bro.
So, somebody thinking they're really smart put all that down. Now, compare that with what Joseph Spurgeon just hammered out. And the clarity of that with the scripture references. There's no scripture references in this Antioch Statement other than the repudiation that this is about.
Joes did everything they claimed they wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But all of the guys like me and you that look at the other one and we're like, I'm not signing that.
And it's not that I'm saying it because I don't disagree with it. I'm not saying it because I don't understand it half the time. I mean, I do understand it, but I'm like...
There are parts of it I don't agree with.
Well, sure. But there's statements that they're making that are just... They're vague, and there's this backstory. Why did you put that in there? Well, you put that in there because you think you saw this, and you think you're answering this. Well, I don't know what this and that are. I can make some assumptions, but you clearly have it so tightly defined, and I don't know what that is. So unless you have their exhaustive knowledge, so that's why
it seemed like they made it ambiguous so that certain people that they didn't want their names on there wouldn't sign it.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like. It feels like they did it so that Webben or the Ogden guys or guys like us or whatever couldn't sign it.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that.
It feels like that. I'm not accusing anybody of that. I'm really frustrated because these are some of my heroes of the faith. Yeah. How many times have I defended Wilson?
Oh, no.
I'm a Wilson guy.
We have gotten in trouble with our own Reformed Baptist crowd because we have
100%.
We took a picture with Wilson, and then we did that on purpose, but we took that picture with him, and we didn't even physically touch him, and people freaked out in our crowd, in our tribe. Yeah. I mean, and I defend him.
To this day, I'll defend him. He's a good brother. They're good brothers. So James White, one of the things we probably need to deal with is that it's been shown with clips from the dividing line, side by side with his tweets, that he is not being consistent.
Yeah.
He's saying that he didn't name names when he did. He said Webben's name on a interview at Dividing Line, and he said he never said his name.
Yeah.
And he was like, I wasn't talking about, I wasn't naming all this stuff on. And anyone who wants that, I can send you. There's a guy who put it all together on Twitter, and it's so blatant and so obvious.
Yeah.
Right there. He needs to confess that.
Again, my heart is to give the benefit of the doubt, and maybe, because I can see James saying, well, this is what I meant when I said this or that. But just come on and clarify.
But just say it.
Admit that I see how it looks, and this doesn't look good.
Yeah.
It looks like I lied, and at least give some plausible explanation.
We know Tobias lied. There's no way around it. And we know that James White is contradicting himself and lying.
Yeah.
So he needs to come out and be like, guys, I messed up. I was confused or whatever.
Yeah.
And no problem. Here's
the church stands ready to forgive,
bro. Here's what's crazy. Do you know the only person in this whole thing that has come out and confessed sin and apologized and asked for forgiveness about anything?
Yeah.
Webben.
It's Webben.
Webben came out and was like, you know what? When I said no one will remember your name, he said, I said that out of pride, and that was wicked and sinful, and I confess it, and I ask forgiveness for it.
Yeah.
The only one with the humility to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And again, the reason he said that is because we speak in memes, we speak in metaphors, and he was quoting the line from a movie, and so all of us that got that thought that was funny and knew that he wasn't saying that.
But he still admitted there was pride in his heart when he said that.
And I think that's shows.
But it's that simple. I don't hold that against him, is my point.
All right, so one other thing I want to just mention here is that there has been overtures and requests for reconciliation. It doesn't even need to be public.
No.
It doesn't need to be broadcast or anything like that. So
It'd be better if it wasn't public.
John Harris has offered to do that, to bring them together in some way, and they're not willing to do that.
Everyone on one side of the argument is willing to do it.
That's my point. Here's write this down. I tweeted it out this morning. I firmly believe this. The party that refuses to come to the table is usually the one who's in the wrong.
Yep.
It's almost every time.
And you're a chicken.
Yeah.
Like you're just a chicken.
Well, yeah. I guess they're afraid of the fallback. But guys, you're stepping on rakes. You're just making fools of yourself. You are losing. You're hemorrhaging respect.
Yep.
You're hemorrhaging.
Well,
respect.
they're doing what Big Eva did to them back in the day. They're doing exactly what Big Eva did to them. So this is the same stuff that people did to Wilson back in the day.
Yeah.
So Wilson would have some controversy. Well, guess what? The Big Eva guys wouldn't have him on to talk about it.
No.
Because they didn't want to be associated with his ilk.
Yeah.
Well, now he doesn't want to have Stephen Wolf on to talk about it because he don't want to be associated with that.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to do the conference with Webben.
Yeah.
Apologia doesn't because of Stephen Wolf.
Yep. Let's sit down. Please, guys, just sit down. Have each other on your podcast. Have each other talk about these things. Interrogate each other on these issues to really hammer out what people believe in.
Fight each other.
Yeah. Do that. Don't do this proxy war. Don't try to get us to sign on to a statement that validates you in your place. I don't want to be a pawn in your war. I'll sign a statement as long as I'm not being a pawn.
Well, it looked like we were signing their baseball bat.
Yeah.
For them to just
good
on
analogy.
Webben.
It's
like, hey, everybody sign my bat before I beat Webben to death with this.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what it seemed like. So that's as it stands right now.
Yep. So anyways, for our church members, feel free to read it. Locate Joseph Spurgeon's. Read that. And see if you can tell the difference between the two of those.
So good.
You should also find Joseph Spurgeon's critique of the Antioch Declaration.
That was well written.
Yeah, that was good.
Joseph's
as well.
knocking it out of the park on that.
Yeah.
So now even Wilson, I think last night or this morning, was talking about how a big part of the problem was that the Zoom call was recorded.
Dude, I'm recording everything from this point forward.
100%. Yes.
So a lot of it was out for the longest time that Webben recorded it. Webben released it. He didn't record it, didn't release it. That was done by the other brother.
Wise.
And we just found
brother.
that out here.
Yeah. Well, as A.D. Robles said, where would we be in this whole mess if that Zoom call hadn't been recorded?
Yeah. Because it would have been a complete takedown of Webben.
It would have been a disaster.
So I think this is why I think this was the 1-2 punch. They were taking him down, and then
making the declaration,
and then they had this declaration.
Oh.
And they've been thinking about this for a while. That's why I don't think they're necessarily related in a like this was written because of the Tobias thing. I think they planned this all along, and it didn't. It failed. It failed because the Zoom call vindicated.
Spectacularly.
And the timeline vindicates. Yep.
Yep.
And then on substance, I don't think everybody's a racist.
Yeah.
I don't think questioning the narrative means you're a racist or that you hate Jews.
Yeah.
That's just categorically absurd.
And when I encounter people that do, I'll deal with it.
Yep.
We shouldn't hate anybody.
Yep.
Just don't make me say BLM. I'm not going to raise my fist in the air for you and sign your statement.
Yep.
I'm just not. And maybe I'm going too far, but that's what it feels like to me.
I hear that, and
Anyway.
So it plays out. All right. This was a special Snake on the Table, and thank you, Elisha, for
thank you for being
your
here.
contribution to this and your wisdom.
Probably the best part.
Yeah. He was the wisest. He was the wisest in our group. snakeonthetable@gmail.com if you got a question for us. We'd love to interact with it.
And all the brothers on both sides of the controversy, I love all of you.
Yep.
Appreciate you. God bless.